Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rancho. Go ahead and stand to your feet. We're going to do worship a little bit different this morning. A little bit more stripped down.
A little less people.
A little less people. It's just us, which is amazing. I don't know if you guys know this. It's not good. It's going to be really bad. I'm just kidding. No, we're going to do worship a little bit less busy, a little kind of more intimate. We just want to encourage all of you guys, let's worship together. Let's sing all these songs out together. Sound good? Let's worship. Come on. Sing this out, sing. Saturday was silent, surely it was through. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? Friday's disappointment was Sunday's empty tomb. Since when has impossible ever stopped you? This is the sound of the dry bones rattling. This is the praise make a dead man walk again. We'll open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of the dry bones rattling. Come on, let's sing this out. Say, Well, I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Well, man's empty praise and treasures that fade will never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, yeah. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. And I know it's true. Hey, I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. Well, there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, I've tasted and I've seen. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, God. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Sing that, I say. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Amen, amen. Well, we just got back from a family vacation, and while we were on that vacation, my father-in-law showed me a video, and I felt like lined up so perfectly with not only the series that we're going through, the song that we're about to sing, but it also lines up so perfectly with everything that I want to scream from the top of my lungs about Jesus. It's everything. So this is the video clip. It's a very short clip from Alistair Begg. Check this out. I want to play this for you guys.
Without the preaching of the cross, without preaching the cross to ourselves all day and every day, we will very, very quickly revert to faith plus works as the ground of our salvation. So that, to go to the old Fort Lauderdale question, if you were to die tonight and you were getting entry into heaven, what would you say? If you answer that, and if I answer it in the first person, we've immediately gone wrong. Because I believed, because I have faith, because I am this, because I am continuing. Loved ones, the only proper answer is in the third person, because he. Think about the thief on the cross. And what an immense, I can't wait to find that fellow one day to ask him, how did that shake out for you? Because you were cussing the guy out with your friend. You've never been in a Bible study. You never got baptized. You didn't know a thing about church membership. And yet you made it. You made it. How did you make it? That's what the angel must have said, like, what are you doing here? Well, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, because I don't know. Well, excuse me, let me get my supervisor. They go get the supervisor ranger. So, just a few questions for you. First of all, are you clear on the doctrine of justification by faith? The guy said, I never heard of it in my life. And what about, let's just go to the doctrine of Scripture immediately. This guy's just staring. And eventually, in frustration, he says, on what basis are you here? And he said, the man on the middle cross said, I can come. Now, that is the only answer. That is the only answer.
As we sing this next song, I want all of us to get that in our heart. Whether you're ready or not, just come. Why? Because the man on the middle cross said we could come. Let's sing. As you are, as you want to be. Are you ready? Are you ready? Come now. Tired, broken, scared, it just ain't me. Ready or not, it's alright, take your time. If nothing else, just come. Like his presence, there's no time like the now. Every 1, 2, 3 of us come in here and now. He welcomes the broken. He's alright with your past. He's not mad at any one of us, but he waits with open arms, says come. You ready? Come now. Leave your inhibitions at the door. in praise for what he's gonna do next. Are you ready? Are you ready? Your night just come. Amen, amen. You all may be seated this morning.
Good morning, Rancho.
Yes, good to see everybody here. Good to see you, Cherie.
Yeah, all of you that are here in person and those of you who are here online, we just want to welcome you.
Awesome.
And I've got to say, we are, goodness, it's beautiful today.
It is a gorgeous day.
73 degrees out there.
And watching the football game that San Francisco won, I saw a Green Bay fan over there still wearing a beanie. Yeah, there you are back there. Awesome.
Kirk's happy for the San Francisco 49ers.
I don't know how cold it was yesterday watching that game, but I like watching it when I'm sitting in my shorts and t-shirt, and it's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah,
another
okay.
fun day today of football.
I'm trying to get there.
It's good, it's good.
Okay, but yes, so we have info for all of you guys that we want to make sure that everybody knows. And so the first one is, if anybody needs to reach us, get a hold of us, you want more info, we say something, you're like, oh, I need to know more about that, or you're looking to find someone, we can connect you. So info@rancho.tv, and we answer that all the time, 24/7.
Any questions you have, anything you want to do. If you're new here today or you're more into texting and emailing, you'll see the number up there, 951-379-3795. If it's your first time, we would love to know that you're here. We'd love to be able to connect with you, maybe answer any questions you have about the church. So you could text new to that number. And that could be, you could text anything to that number as well.
You can text anything to that number as well.
Rancho, info@rancho.tv.
Yep.
Just a great number to have. Reach out. We love to. And we have a little gift for you outside
We
as
do,
well.
and the gift is actually really awesome. So
my wife and my son use this gift every day.
Yeah, so
of
you
their
don't want to
lives.
miss that. Matter of fact, if you're online and you're new, I encourage you to come and pick up the gift. Go home afterwards.
It's worth it for that.
Absolutely. Right. And, we want to talk a little bit about giving. Mm-hmm. There's several ways to give. You can do that the old-fashioned way. You can write a check or drop cash in the black boxes. Don't laugh at me, Steve. I've been known to do that. You can do it that way. You can also text, again, to give. Or you can actually go online to give. You can set up reoccurring payments. I finally did that during the pandemic. I admit it was freeing.
It's easy.
Yeah. It is.
And for me, it's cool. We do that too. And thank you for you that give and keep what we're doing here going. 30% of what comes in goes outside of this campus.
Which is huge.
To ministries around the community and around the world. So thank you for that. And if you're used to keeping your heart on your giving so you can pray, you get an email when you set up that online giving.
Email. Yep.
So when I get that email, that's when I kind of spend time and kind of lift that giving up and make. So thank you for you that have been faithful. We really do appreciate that.
We do. And it's because of your generosity that we are able to do so many things outside of these walls. And that's
we have
what
something
we love.
coming up that is your baby.
It is. So I have a huge heart for this ministry, our special needs ministry. And we do a special needs prom. This year is One Enchanted Evening. I'm with you, Don. I see you out there clapping. And this is for those that are affected with a disability, and you can be 14 or over. But here's where we need Rancho's help. We need a couple of things. We need first responders. So if you are able to volunteer that night and you are a first responder, we need you. We also need, I'm gonna give you the main things that we're in need of. We need some people to help preparing the food. That is not my gifting, but it is someone else's gifting, I know it. And the next one is buddies. If you can be a buddy for someone that night, I guarantee you it will be the best night of your life, because I know all of us say every year we smile so much the whole night that our face hurts when we're done.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's watching the families too that get to go and have a meal, and the parents that get blessed and touched on too. I think that last year when I walked into that room and kind of watched the parents having that special night was so amazing. This is just an amazing night.
It's an amazing night. I encourage you to be a part.
At this point, we are in need of how many? Still about 25 families that we're trying to get sponsored.
So we have 25 families right now that are not able to go because they need to be sponsored. And that is about $150. Maybe you can give $150, maybe you can give half of that. Maybe you can do 3 or 4 kids. But today, I believe that we can totally clear out those 25 families between our church family. So if you can go out to the tables when you leave, go to the One Enchanted evening table, talk to them and see how you can sponsor a king and queen. Like I said, it's a huge blessing.
It is. It's awesome. And then also out there, we having snow cones today.
We are.
But that's because, oh wait, how did Carissa say that? Like
it is snow good to join a group.
Snow good to join a group. So out there at the table, our groups are starting on February 2nd. And so we would love it if you want to go grab one of these menus, look through all the 30 different groups. Yep. I'm actually doing a group, Where is God During Hardship? So if you want to come and kind of wrestle through that idea, we have other groups, we have classes, all this going on Wednesday night starting February 2nd. So go grab one of these, get yourself involved in a couple weeks, and that would be amazing. So
yes, that's what's going on at Rancho. And Carissa,
Beaver, good to see you guys.
Yes, good morning. Okay, fun fact, this will be my first prom. I never went to prom, and so One Enchanted Evening will be my very first
You're gonna love it.
Experience.
It is amazing.
I'm really excited. I don't know if my date is gonna be there that night or not because we have 3 kids and we don't have a babysitter, but I'm really excited to be there. And we're really excited to be here with all of you this morning, whether you're here with us live and in person or you're joining us online. It is such a good day to be together. And we are continuing our series called Ready or Not, where today we're talking about what it looks like to invest in family. And family doesn't look the same for everyone, right, Ryan? You know, it can be
mixed bag.
We are. We all are. And so we have our, families who are parenting young kids, which as our children's pastor, that's a big part of your ministry here at Rancho and part of why you're up here. You're kind of the in-house expert. I don't know if you knew that.
Expert is a word. I have a lot of experience, is what I would say. I would prefer that word because that puts a lot of pressure, and I certainly do not live up to the expert label sometimes.
So we'll remove the pressure from you. So then we also have those of you who maybe are single and you're desiring family. We have those of you who maybe are divorced or who have chosen that kids are not going to be a part of your future. The discussion and the teaching today will have something for all of you. Because no matter what stage of life we're in or what our experiences have looked like, we need family. We were created for family. And my personal story is that from the time I was 15 years old, church, the local church, became my family. So let's talk about investing in family. Ryan, why is this important? Why is it something that you have spent really, how many years of your career now helping people learn how to?
Well, I started doing youth ministry when I was around 20. And I kind of stumbled into that, and I've been doing youth ministry to some extent for the last 22 years. So it's been a lot of time. I've been doing children's ministry for the last 4 to 5 years, and I have 4 kids. I have a family of my own, and so I would say that you ask why it's so important is because to me it's like the single greatest legacy I have, the single thing that I feel most. I always look at that parable of the talents, and when God asked me, were you faithful to what I entrusted you, the number one thing He's entrusted me with is my family. And I want to do the best job I can to say, not perfect, but I did my best.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
It came from my parents.
Okay.
I have a very, very, and I'm not saying this, these aren't empty words. I had a very unique upbringing in the sense that my parents were really, truly great parents that loved me. I have sat in more than one room where I've got literally, I'm talking out of 8 guys, one by one, they tell the stories of how their father never hugged them or told them they loved them, or their abusive household, and it gets to me at the end, and I'm almost embarrassed to be like, my parents weren't perfect, but they were really good parents that I never wondered whether I was loved. I never wondered whether I was a priority. So I had that very, very fortunate gift, and I'm just trying the best I can to keep that rolling,
So we need stories like yours in the church because we need to know that kind of a legacy exists, and because we need to know that it's possible. My husband Ryan has a story very similar to yours. If he was up here, he's right over there in the corner with our youngest
I'm a fan
Abby.
of that guy, by the way.
And I have to tell you, I am so incredibly grateful for his parents and his grandparents and the legacy that has been poured into him because I didn't have that story. I didn't have parents who loved me, who protected me, who kept me safe. In fact, it was the exact opposite of all of that. And I can remember after we got married and we found out that I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, Claire, friends, I was terrified. I was terrified of becoming a mom because I had no example of even how to be a mediocre mom. All I had was, well, if that was what happened to me, if I try to do the exact opposite, then maybe I'll be doing a better job. And I needed the church to help me. I needed them to invest in me. I needed women and men to come alongside of me and alongside our family to help us learn how to figure this out. So my journey is different in the sense of, I felt like I needed to go to college to figure out how to be a wife and a parent. I can't tell you, it's like, all right, give me all the books. Give me all of the experiences. I was just hungry for how do I not royally mess this up? Because that should have been, aside from Jesus, that should have been my legacy, but it's not. So, all right, what does this actually look like? When we talk about investing in family, you're a children's pastor, you've been a youth pastor, you're also a dad, you have 4 kids?
Yes, 4 kids. As far as what it looks like, honestly, it looks like difficult. It looks like one of those things where, you asked a question when you let me know what you were going to be talking about. You asked, why can it be difficult? And for me, the first thing that came to mind was like the word, it's called investing in family. And that word investing is like incredibly counterintuitive for most human beings. The idea of doing something now that will have delayed benefits.
Right.
Because the idea of investing money and not spending it on what I want to spend it now, that's hard. I had to be like trained as an adult. I remember making a lot of money when I was young and watching it all just disappear. And then somebody took me to a Dave Ramsey class and I'm like, what is this? It was like a whole different way of looking at things, a whole different way of seeing things. And the same is very much true. Even though I grew up in a house where there was a great example set, I had to have my priorities rearranged. I had to like get through my head that, he who loves his wife loves himself. And the idea that like the most like selfish thing in a good way I can do is to love my wife and to love my kids. And as an individual who grew up spending like 20 years of myself as just a solo rider, it was like, do what's best for you.
Yeah.
But I had to retrain myself. And so it is challenging, but it is so worth it when you're able to do it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I say is that because I have a very high goal of what I want to be as a father, as a husband, I have to have grace for myself. I have to have lots of grace because...
do you have moments and days when the goal is here, but somehow we miss the mark?
I have moments where if you saw you'd be like, he's not going to teach my kids. He can't do this. There's moments where I'm like, I just call the kids together and go, all right, let me tell you how dad just messed up. Let me tell you how that was unacceptable. Let me tell you how your dad is 42 and acting like a 4-year-old. These are the things, but I have to I have to give myself grace and I have to go back to the goal I have and try the best I can to chase after it,
Well, this idea of investing, it's our time, it's our energy, it's our resources, and most of us know, like what you're talking about, what we want it to look like. We know either intuitively or from past experience or from research and reading and basically going to college to learn how to be a mom, what it's supposed to look like. And yet we still find we lose our temper. We don't love others more than we love ourselves. And we have these moments where we think, I want to do good, I want to do the right thing, and yet I can't quite figure it out. And I love what you shared about kind of gathering the kids together and going, all right, here's how I have not done and made good choices today. One of the things that has just been so grace and life-giving to me as a mom is this idea of repairing. That when we see that we have hurt our kids' feelings or let them down or wounded them, that what's most important in those moments is that we come together and we take ownership, that we ask for forgiveness if that's necessary, and that we repair. We remind them that even though I spoke harshly, or even though I lost my temper, or even though I disappointed you, I love you and I care about you, and it actually does something in their brain.
For sure, it helps them know that it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah. It's okay to, what a culture you're creating in your house there. One of the things you said about this idea of this vision of, I will say for me, like I don't know, I'm somewhat, I find myself crying a lot at movies lately. I'm a 42-year-old man and I'm like, why do I keep crying to these movies? But I'm like sentimental in a certain extent. And what I mean by that is like, I have this really like vivid vision of me being older and bolder than I am now, and with my kids and their kids in our house playing games in a loving. I have this I really want that. I want that bad. And one of the things when you asked me to talk about this, the first thing that came to mind was the idea of reverse engineering that.
Oh, okay. Tell us about
So
that.
what I mean is, I have this picture of a grace-filled community that is my family, and all the branches that they're going to come out of this immediate family I have, and I'm so anxious to have those moments, to have those vacations or those game nights or those experiences that I have to ask myself, how do I get there? One of my favorite sermon series was from Andy Stanley. It was called The Principle of the Path. And Andy Stanley does a great job of taking just things that are, it's kind of like this series, like these little simple ideas that can make a drastic change. And his whole theory is like, if you get on the 15 South and you drive, where are you going to end up? You're going to end up at the border, right? You are on that path. That is where you will end up.
Yeah.
And he does a great job of saying, listen, figure out where you want to end up and constantly ask yourself, am I on the path towards that?
Yeah.
And that is one of the greatest tools that gets me recentered. There's times where I find myself prioritizing wrongly, or I find myself, just missing the mark, and I have to get myself back on that path towards that goal, because one of my favorite sayings for anything when it comes to family, or honestly anything, is you don't drift towards anything of value. You have to be intentional and purposeful to get there. And I will tell you that when it comes to the family that I want, I know for a fact if I just drift, I'm not going to end up there.
Yeah.
I gotta paddle there. I gotta work there. I gotta do the best I can to stay focused on it. So that's what keeps me hopefully pressing towards it.
Yeah. I love the mixture of grace that you've spoken about this morning and also intentionality. And one of my favorite authors, theologian Dallas Willard, says grace is opposed to earning. It's not opposed to effort. And anything good that we're wanting to partner with God on in our life, most of the time it requires some effort on our part. Never our earning. It's not something that we can earn, but he wants us to partner with him in the process. Yeah. So, Ryan, as a mom who has 2 kids in your ministry, I am so grateful for the work that you and your volunteers and all those people are doing. It's just such an important part of investing in our families.
Well, we have an awesome team, and your husband is a sweet part of that team.
He's one of them.
We love it. You got a bunch of people there that love the kids, so thank you guys for bringing them, and
awesome.
We look forward to years more of it.
Yes, awesome, good job. All right, so we're gonna do the stool table transition thing here. I keep telling the team I don't mind moving the table when I'm wearing comfortable shoes, but if I ever decide I wanna wear heels, I'm gonna need a little assistance. That's my thing. So, investing in our families. I want to get really practical with you today on what this looks like, regardless of what season of life you're in right now, and whether your family looks like a spouse and kids at home, or a spouse and adult kids, or you're single and you're raising kids, or you're yearning for a family. What does this look like to partner with God and invest in our families? There are 3 questions that I want to invite you to consider this morning. And the first one is it time to process the past? How many of you love going on vacations? Trips, vacations, you want to plan them, you want to be there, you want to remember them after the fact, and COVID has just totally messed most of that up for us, right? How many of you take your kids or your grandkids on these vacations? Yeah, those are not vacations, right? They're trips. Because what do kids do? Regardless of whether they're newborns or they're school age or they're teenagers, what did they do to your vacations? They ruin them. Ryan and I have a high value of vacations. We have since we were newly married and totally broke, and we would figure out how to get away and go experience someplace new. And then as a young family, we decided to bring the kids with us, and very quickly found out that it was way more work to be with our kids away on a trip than it was to just be with them at home. I can remember, in fact, being in Lake Tahoe with all 3 kids. Our youngest was probably about a year and a half. Abby, you're gonna remember this story, kiddo, because this is the trip that Abby decided she didn't like sleeping in the hotel room. She just didn't like it, no matter what we did. And so my husband, Ryan, wound up every night putting her in the car seat, driving her to sleep, and then he couldn't bring her back inside the hotel room. because she would wake up and scream. So he slept with Abby in the car. Yeah, this is just part of the deal. We also all got pink eye on that trip and seriously considered whether or not we were just going to stop doing family vacations altogether. But here's what I want you to know about the Harrison household, is it's not my kids who ruined vacations. For many years, it was me that ruined the trips and ruined the vacations. There was a point when I realized that there was this cycle that I was stuck in, where no matter what the trip or the vacation was, whether it was my husband and I going away for one night together with no kids, which is a dream when they're all little, or it was all of us going away for a whole week, no matter what the situation or the scenario was, a couple of days leading up to the trip, and then the day we left, I was a disaster. Nothing was going right. I was snippy and on edge. I had these moments where I just felt like I was coming out of my skin. And do you ever have moments where it's almost like an out-of-body experience where you're watching yourself react to the people in your life and you're going, I think I'm losing my mind. I think I might actually be crazy. I don't want to say these things. I don't want to do these things, but I'm doing them and I can't make it stop. And so as we got ready for a spring break trip a few years ago, all of a sudden I realized this isn't something that happens like every once in a while. This is something that happens every single trip. And my husband was just way too kind and gracious to point it out to me. And so I thought, I don't want to keep repeating this pattern. I don't want to keep doing this, but I don't know how to make it stop. I don't know why I'm doing this. And so I made an appointment with my therapist. And I remember going, I have no idea why I'm here. I don't know what I'm supposed to talk to you about. I have processed my past multiple times, but there is this pattern, there is this cycle, there is this thing, and I don't know how to make it stop. And I want to be better. I want to do better. I need some help. And I would imagine that maybe you're not ruining vacations, but maybe there's something else in your life where you feel something similar or you've experienced something similar, because it's part of the human condition. In fact, it's not just me. The Apostle Paul, the guy who wrote the majority of the New Testament scriptures, he described something very similar. So I want to read it to you this morning. In Romans chapter 7, he says this: what I don't understand about myself is that I decide one way, but then I act another, doing things that I absolutely despise. So if I can't be trusted to figure out what's best for myself and do it, it becomes obvious that God's command is necessary. And then he goes on and he says, but I need something more. For if I know the law but still can't keep it, and if the power of sin within me keeps sabotaging my best intentions, I obviously need help. Now, one of the things that I want to point out to you is oftentimes we'll read scripture about sin and we automatically think it's the results of our sin, the results of our poor choices, the results, the natural consequences that we have initiated into our life. But what this can also mean is the result of the sin that has been done to us, the pain that has been caused to us, the wounds that have been inflicted upon us. Others' choices, others' sin also creates unwanted and unfair consequences in our life. It can be both and. He goes on and he says, I realize that I don't have what it takes. I can will it, but I can't do it. I decide to do good, but I don't really do it. And I decide not to do bad, but then I do it anyway. My decisions, such as they are, don't result in actions. I am choosing, I am desiring, I am wanting, and then it doesn't happen that way. Something has gone wrong deep within me and gets the better of me every time. And here's the thing. I love Paul. I love the vulnerability that he's writing here in this passage, because he's not saying that he sabotaged one family vacation, which he didn't do because the guy didn't even have a family. He's saying, this didn't just happen once. This wasn't a season in my life. He goes, it happens to me so regularly that it is predictable. The moment I decide to do good, sin is there to trip me up. I truly delight in God's commands. I want love and joy and peace and patience and all of the goodness to be reflected in my life. But it's pretty obvious that not all of me joins in that delight. Parts of me covertly rebel, and just when I least expect it, they take charge. He says, I've tried everything and nothing helps. I'm at the end of my rope. Is there no one who can do anything for me? Isn't that the real question? Do you feel the vulnerability here? The humanity? The raw willingness to just say, I want to do the right thing. I want to do better, but for whatever reason, and I can't always figure it out, I don't know how. I don't know what it looks like. I can't get myself to do the thing that I want to do. He says the answer, thank God, is that Jesus Christ can and does. He acted to set things right in this life of contradictions where I want to serve God with all of my heart and mind, but I am pulled by the influence of sin to do something totally different. And so we want to invest in our families, in our spouses, in our kids, in our grandkids, in our great-grandkids, in the friends that we have chosen to become our family. And yet, we find ourselves ruining vacations. We find ourselves needing to gather our family together and ask for forgiveness and to receive grace. We want to do what we know is good and well, and yet something's tripping us up. And so my question for you this morning is it time to process the past? And some of you would say, Carissa, I don't need to talk about that. What is the point of talking about what happened decades ago or 5 years ago? What good is that going to do me today? And I would say, friend, absolutely. It makes a difference. You see, you can't go back and change what happened to you. You can't go back and change your story. But you can change how you experience the story today. And you can change how you experience the story in the future. When I realized that I was ruining vacations and I went back to therapy and I said, I don't know why I'm ruining these vacations, but something is going on and I need you to help me figure it out. And that launched me into several months of really difficult work, processing through some of the things that had happened. And I kid you not, to this day, I have no direct correlation from the healing that God did in that season of my life and ruining vacations, but what I can tell you is this. In July of 2020, a few years after finishing and wrapping up that work, we went on our first trip. And day 2, all of a sudden, I realized that I did not ruin the vacation. That I had remained centered and capable, that I had managed my own internal world and all of the chaos that goes along with being a young family in a healthy way. And since then, the gift has been that other trips, I have not reverted back to that pattern. And I have to tell you, I'm so incredibly grateful. And so a couple of questions that might help you to know if this is something that God's inviting you to do. That might help you to know if maybe it's time to spend a little bit of time with someone who has been trained to process the past. Is, what am I sabotaging? It's probably not vacations for you, but it might be something else. Is it an argument in your marriage that's happening over and over again, or any conflict? Is it a conversation? Is it an experience that you find yourself doing the thing that you know you don't want to do over and over and over again, but you can't figure out why or how to stop it? What are you sabotaging? The next question is, what am I forcing? Are you finding that you're forcing your way of doing things, your way of thinking onto the people around you? That if it's not done your way, then it's not right? Do you find that you have to have the last word all of the time? What do you find that you're forcing on the people around you? And then the last question is, what am I avoiding? Is there a season or a story or a person in my life that I just simply cannot or will not talk about? Because it's too hard, it's too painful. What's the point? That may be an indication that it's time, that God is inviting you into this work. And maybe you would say, Carissa, I have done this work. And I would say, man, that takes so much courage. Sometimes culture wants to tell us that when we decide to process the past and to ask for help and to ask for support, that we are showing weakness. But I am here to tell you today that the most courageous people that I know are men and women who are choosing to do this work, to partner with God in this process. It requires tremendous courage. And maybe this isn't for you, but maybe in your family, your spouse or your kid or your grandkid or your sister or your parents, maybe they are doing the work of processing their past. And the gift that you can give to them, the investment you can give to them is to be patient with them, to be unconditionally loving and gracious towards them as they do this difficult work. I have to tell you, the greatest gift that I received in the midst of multiple times now doing some of this work in my life is that my husband Ryan has been rock solid, supportive, gracious, kind, and patient. And so maybe it's not that you need to do the work, maybe it's that you are called to support the one that is doing the work. And then the next question for us to consider today as we invest in our families is, what does it look like to engage in the present? You know, I can remember multiple times that we had very public meltdowns in Target or at the baseball field or at the grocery store. There's more than one occasion that I left a filled cart with items and just gave up and walked out because it was like, we're done. The bomb has gone off and here we are. I remember one moment though in Target, at least 2 of the 3 children were crying. I think I had tears and I was contemplating, you know, what do I do? Do I just suck it up and get through the checkout line, or do I abort ship and go home? And this was before Instacart, by the way. And I can remember this woman walking over, and I'm so grateful that she didn't judge me in that moment, because that does happen. But she said, she looks at me and she says, "Oh, honey, enjoy every moment because they're gonna be gone soon." And I was like, what do you mean enjoy? There's nothing enjoyable about this moment right now. And so engaging in the present, sometimes it looks like this combination of gratitude and acknowledging reality. Because life tends to be this messy mixture. And so what does it look like for you to be really intentionally grateful for the people that God has entrusted to you, to look for what they're doing right, to call out the goodness that you see in them, to affirm what they're doing well? Can we spend more time focused on that? And also acknowledge reality, that sometimes it's hard, that sometimes our feelings are hurt, that sometimes we have unmet expectations that need to be expressed, that sometimes we do need to spend time setting and maintaining boundaries that are gonna make people kind of frustrated with us. The Apostle Paul talks about this in Romans as well. At the end of chapter 8, he hits this climax of, that nothing can separate us from the love and the goodness of God, that he is confident in the love of God and the way that God is working in his life. And then in the very next breath, in chapter 9, which by the way, Paul didn't write in chapter and verse, we added that later. So in the very next breath, after Paul describes his confidence in the goodness of God, he goes on to say, and yet I have a huge sorrow. This is the mixture, the tension that we can be grateful and focus on the good, and yet we also at times need to be able to acknowledge the reality. And then what does it look like to engage in the present? Maybe it's to be intentional about how you want to show up. What does it look like in this season? How do you want to show up for your spouse, for your kids, for your grandkids, for your friends? In this season of our parenting over the next 10 years, Ryan and I have decided that we want to be the house. Do you know what I mean by that? We want to be the house that all the kids want to hang out at, which sounded like a really great idea 10 years ago. And now that I'm living in it as an introvert, I have a lot of second. I'm questioning that a little bit at times. But we have changed lots of what we do. Ryan came home one day and he pulled out a snack and he said, "Did you buy this?" I said, yeah, I feel like we need cool snacks, not the healthy organic stuff. Like, we want the kids' friends to want to be here. So we're doing things and being intentional to make our home a space where our kids want to be there, where their friends want to be there, which also means that the introverted mom who would really like there to not be 10 kids at her house is saying yes as often as I possibly can. How do you want to show up in this season? Maybe you need to not be me who's trying to say yes more, and you need to be you and say no more. It's different for all of us, but it requires some intentionality. And then the third question is, what does it look like to build your community? We cannot do this thing of investing in our families alone. I am not exaggerating to you when I am telling you I had zero experience as a child that I would repeat. There isn't one memory or one thing that I look back on and go, I want to do that with my kids. But I can tell you this, there has been women who have invested in my life, who have taught me what it looks like to love well, who have been gracious to me when I have messed up. There have been couples who have come alongside us, who have raised their kids, who are teaching Ryan and I what it looks like to invest in our kids now so that they might want to hang out with us later down the road. We have needed our community. I have needed to be a part of groups. I have needed friendships with people. I have needed the church to become my family. How do you need to build community? Here, where do you need support? That often looks like joining a group, and then maybe joining a different one, and then maybe trying a new one. Do you need to process the past? What does it look like to engage in the present? And then the third question I want us to consider today is, how do we hope for the future? How do we hope for the future? You know, Ryan talked about the reverse engineering. This is part of this, is we can look at our circumstances today, our family today, these moments when we think to ourselves, I'm doing the things that I don't want to do and I don't know how to fix it. How do I get to there? How do I create something different than what I had? How do we hope for the future? And the first thing that I want to tell you is something that I learned brand new this week. I'm reading the new Brené Brown book. And if you don't know who she is, she's a brilliant researcher. She's a PhD. She's a clinical social worker. She's devoted decades of her career to understanding human emotion and connection. And what she wrote in this new book is that hope is not a warm and fuzzy feeling, which kind of surprised me, because I think most of us, when we think of hope, we think of this emotion that we have to conjure up in ourselves that gives us the warm and fuzzies, but doesn't actually really do much of anything to help. But what Brené says is, she says, hope is not a warm and fuzzy feeling, it's a way of thinking. And that way of thinking starts with setting realistic goals. It's like what Ryan was talking about. What do you want your family to look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Someone said to me recently, and this isn't the first person that has said this to me, I hear this a lot from parents who are at the stage of parenting that I'm in. Carissa, I just want my kids to want to be together when they're adults. I just want them to enjoy our family. That's a realistic goal. It's not a realistic goal to decide that your spouse is never gonna get on your nerves or bug you or drive you crazy. Because guess what? You also ruin vacations or your form of a story. That's not a realistic goal. It's not a realistic goal that our kids would grow up and never make mistakes or never make poor choices. We want to set realistic goals. Also understanding that there are no guarantees. After almost 20 decades in ministry and starting off in youth ministry and watching, I see parents who have done a great job, raise kids who still grow up and make poor choices. And I see kids who grow up in homes whose parents are really wrestling poorly through their own stuff. And those kids grow up to make great choices. There are no guarantees, but we can set realistic goals. And then we want to be creative and flexible. So this is what I want my family to look like. This is the reverse engineering that Ryan was talking about. Let's be creative and flexible. How many of you have more than one child? More than 2? More than 3? Okay, you need a gold star or an award. We have 3. I don't know how people do life with more than 3 because I feel like sometimes we're barely functioning. But every child requires a different mom. I can parent one kid one way, and then I try to do the exact same thing with kid number 2 and kid number 3, and it totally blows up. So we want to stay creative and flexible. If you're looking to connect with your spouse or to connect with a kid, you might try one approach, and if that doesn't work, don't give up. Be flexible, stay creative, try something different, read a book, ask somebody in your group what they do or how they do it. This requires some trial and error. And then you want to take loving action. We're not just setting goals and reading books or figuring out what to do, but we want to take action where we're working and willing for the good of our family, whatever that family definition looks like. Where we're saying to God, okay, God, I'm in this with you. What's the next right step that I can take with my spouse or with my kid or with my sister or with my parents? What's the next right loving step? And then the last thing that I want to mention to you is that sometimes it just hurts too much to hope. Sometimes no matter how creative we are, how flexible we remain, we just hit a wall. We run out of options, and it's incredibly painful. But part of our inheritance in Christ is that even in those moments, when we don't know what to do next, we are invited to hope in Christ. To wait on God, to hope now and to hope always. And sometimes God does something that just blows my mind. And other times what I see is that God is with me and with you in the midst of it, loving, comforting, bringing peace. And then somehow he manages to take the ashes, to take the broken pieces, and he turns them into something new and into something beautiful. And so as the team comes out and gets ready to close us in a final song, I want you to just consider today, as you look to invest in your family, where is God inviting you to partner with him? Is it time to process the past? What does it look like to engage in the present? How can you begin to hope for the future? In Romans 8, Paul says, this resurrection life you received from God is not a timid, grave-tending life where we hold back, where we're afraid, where we're resisting. He says it's adventurously expectant, greeting God with a childlike, what's next, Papa? Doesn't that sound like hope? An adventurously expectant, what's next, God? God's Spirit touches our spirit and confirms who we really are. That even when I am ruining vacations, that even when I'm doing all of the things that I don't know how to stop, that God says, you are still my beloved child, my son or my daughter, and I see you, and I love you, and I'm in this with you. We know who God is, we know who he is, and we know who we are, father and children. And we know we are going to get what's coming to us, an unbelievable inheritance. And I think that inheritance, I think part of it, Rancho has captured so well. It's that we get to live free from the past, free from old hurts, free from old wounds, free from those patterns and those cycles that we desperately want to break and do differently, free from legalism, free from trying to earn or prove our way into God's love, free. We get to live free, and then we get to do good out of that freedom. And so, Evan, as we get ready to sing this song, you're always on the wrong side, friend. I don't know what I always look there, and you're here. I know. Well, and Ryan put his stool in the wrong spot earlier.
Just
so
ridiculous. Just
obviously
ridiculous.
It's me. Okay, so we're gonna sing this song about hope. We've talked about, the hope that we can take some action, and then also the hope where we just have to wait on God. And so as you sing about hope, what comes to mind for you?
Well, every worship song that I kind of look at, I always approach from the side of hope. So if I'm listening to lyrics, so I always am impacted in a way of not like not even an anticipation of something that might happen, because our hope is in the promise of the finished work of the cross.
Yeah.
you know, and so it's almost like an eager expectation of what's to come. So every time that I'm listening to a song, worshiping, you know, the Lord through song, it's always from the side of hope, knowing that we have that ahead of us. And that doesn't mean times aren't ridiculous. You know, we don't go through crazy things. But at the same time, I know that there is a hope, and that's what we're striving towards. And
Yeah, awesome. Well, if you're able, would you stand with us as we sing one more song?
Your light is greater, you light our way, God, you light our way. When evil is rising, you're rising higher, with power to save, with power to save. You keep hope alive, you keep hope alive, from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Death had a stronghold, but your life was stronger. Rose from the grave, rose up from the grave. When evil is rising, you're rising higher, with power to save, with power to save. Oh, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails, and you keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. There's hope in the morning, hope in the evening, hope because you're living, hope because you're breathing. There's hope in the breaking, hope in the sorrow, hope for this moment, my hope for tomorrow. There's hope in the morning, there's hope in the evening, there's hope because you're living, there's hope because you're breathing, there's hope in the breaking, and hope in the sorrow, hope for this moment, my hope for tomorrow. You are my You keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to end. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive.
Let's thank Evan, the band. Thank you, Carissa, so much. Hey, when you go out today, we have the snow cone trucks out there. It is free, so go out there and grab a snow cone, join a group, help out with our prom coming up. There's a lot of stuff going on. Thank you. We'll see you next week as we continue this series, and hope you all have a wonderful day. See ya.
We hide pain in the weirdest places, broken souls with smiling faces, fighting for surrender. for now and the after, yeah. Just look around and you see that people are scared to say how they really feel. Oh, we all need a little honesty, yeah. You are love. If your heart's in 1,000 pieces, if you're lost and you're far from reason, just look up, know you are loved. Just look up, know you are loved. When it feels like something's missing, if it hurts but you can't find healing, just look up, know you are loved. Just look up, know you are loved. We're not made to be superheroes, photoshopped all size zeros, a light not expected, but not quite perfected, yeah. Look up, see the sun is shining, there's hope on the